All right, so today we're going to talk about drugs and alcohol. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We're kind of going to go through this PowerPoint. And we're going to learn a little bit more about drugs and alcohol. Feel free to use the chat. If you have any questions, or if you have any questions, just go ahead and use the chat for me. So, all right, so what is alcohol? So I know this is like a broad definition. Like, you're like, Sharon, we all know what alcohol is. Like, yeah, you might know what it is. But I'm kind of like looking for a specific definition of what alcohol is. And if you don't know what alcohol is, that's okay too. But I'm going to tell you. So alcohol, the true definition of alcohol is a colorless flammable liquid that is intoxicating constituent of wine, beer, spirits, and other drinks. So yes, so any like beverage, like a martini or a margarita or any hard liquor, yeah, that is alcohol. So anything that has like that flammable liquid is alcohol. So, quick question, is alcohol a drug? Do you think alcohol is a drug? Yes or no? And you can type it in the chat if you want, or just think about it. Is alcohol a drug? Okay. Yes, alcohol is a drug because you can become addicted to alcohol, correct? So anything you can become addicted to could be a drug. And most likely sometimes it is a drug, most of the things that you are addicted to. So alcohol is a drug. So let's talk about stimulant versus depressant. Oops, do we know the difference between a stimulant and a depressant? And they're very similar, so it could be really hard to know the difference between both. If you don't know it, then that's totally fine. I will explain to you what it is. But I just want you to think about what a stimulant versus a depressant is, and what they could do to your body. So the easiest way I like to think about it is stimulant is like stimuli for some reason. I don't know. You'll see why it relates to that. And depressant, it almost self-explains itself. So let's look at what they mean. So stimulant, it increases focus, energy, and feeling of well-being, treating many conditions like depression, narcolepsy, and ADHD. So a stimulant like gives you energy and makes you like more aware, and you can focus better. So it kind of gives you that energy boost kind of. A depressant, on the other hand, it slows your brain down. So it decreases your blood pressure, your alertness goes down, your breathing goes down, your heart rate goes down. So depressant is kind of like it brings you down. A stimulant hypes you up, and then a depressant just brings you down, cools you down, calms you. So what is alcohol? Do you think alcohol is a stimulant or a depressant? So remember, stimulant, it like hypes you up, gives you focus, high energy. A depressant kind of like calms you down, and like your mood kind of goes down. What do you think alcohol is? A stimulant or a depressant? You might not know, and that's okay. But what do you think? Okay, thank you for circling that. Perfect, perfect. Let's see. You are correct. Alcohol is a depressant, right? Because alcohol kind of brings you down, right? It kind of like your whole mood, you like, some people chill out, some people like think very slowly, they're not in all their senses. So yeah, so alcohol is a depressant. It essentially just, when somebody is very inebriated and they've drank too many drinks, more than one, more than 5, more than 10 maybe, and they're, you know, past that beyond point, they get very sleepy, they don't start thinking straight, their actions are slower, they may even talk slower, they slur on their words, right? So yes, so it's a depressant. So it is a depressant, kind of what I hit. It slows down your ability to think clearly, to make decisions. You feel more loose and more daring. You may do things that you wouldn't do when you're totally normal. So let's say I'm a very shy person, and then after 5 or 6 drinks, I'm like social butterfly, right? That's something I wouldn't do if I was a shy person. But when I have a few drinks in me, maybe I would, right? So that's kind of an example. A large amount of alcohol can cause dizziness and decreased coordination. So that's why a lot of people who drink, and why police officers always do this test is they always say walk in a straight line, right? Because people who have a lot of alcohol or are have a lot of alcohol in their system, they will not be able to walk straight. Everything kind of looks like you're looking at two things, right? Everything's just kind of like you feel dizzy, everything's moving, your coordination's off, like you're clumsy, right? So that's what alcohol does to you. It will make it hard to stay awake. Some people will fall asleep, will get really sleepy, so it'll be hard for them to stay awake. Some people may black out where they will do things and don't even remember, or the next morning people will tell them, hey, you remember you did this? And they'll be like, no, I don't remember any of that. I only remember until I went to the restroom, and then I don't remember what happened after that. So that's kind of scary. Like your brain like blacks out and you don't remember anything that happened between a certain time. And like I said, that's really scary not to remember what you did. Some people might become obnoxious. So some people may become very loud, very, they just want to be heard, and they're just obnoxious people. Some become very violent too. So, if somebody may bump into somebody who has had a lot of alcohol, and they become very violent, they'll be like, hey, what's your problem? Like, stop bumping into me, right? So some people may become violent. Maybe they'll throw things, or they become very angry. So these are some common things that happens when somebody has had a little too many drinks. So can you become addicted to alcohol? So we stated that alcohol was a drug, right? But can you become addicted to it? Can you become addicted to alcohol? So yes, right? Alcohol addiction is real. So people have become addicted to alcohol. And it's not just adults that will become addicted now. Like teens can become addicted. Anybody can become addicted to alcohol. And anybody can abuse alcohol, right? It can take weeks to become addicted, but addiction only takes 5 to 7 years to heal from. So that's pretty a long time. So you can become addicted to alcohol in 2 weeks, let's say. But trying to get sober and healing that addiction, it will take you 5 to 7 years. That's a long time compared to how long it takes you to get addicted to it. So it's kind of scary. So why should teens not drink? So first of all, we all know this, it's illegal, right? Anybody under the age of 21 cannot drink, right? Your brain's still developing when you're a teen. Your brain doesn't finish developing until you're 25 years old. So when you're drinking and your brain's still developing, of course, it's going to have some consequences, right? Your brain is not going to fully develop or won't develop correctly. So it's just not going to help your brain if you start drinking while it's still being developed. So when teens drink, they tend to binge, which means they drink a lot of drinks back to back. So a lot of teens tend to do this because, number one, they probably think it's cool. So they're like, hey, I can take 3 or 4 drinks back to back, right? They don't know what the limit is. And alcohol doesn't strike you right away, right? So if someone takes 1 sip of it or a whole bottle of alcohol, it's not going to affect them right away. So that's why people keep drinking and drinking and drinking, because they're like, I don't feel it. I don't feel it. I don't feel it. It doesn't feel like anything. So they keep drinking until they binge drink, and they drink more than 5 drinks, and then they like start feeling dizzy and woozy and black out, and when all these other side effects come into play, right? So why can some people hold their liquor better than others? Why do you think some people can hold their liquor better than others? And I'll kind of explain what hold their liquor means if you don't understand. But just think about it. Why can some people hold their liquor better than others? So a good example would be 2 people, let's say myself and another person. And let's say my friend Sally over here can drink 10 drinks and not feel a thing. And then I can drink 1 drink and feel like I am intoxicated and feel dizzy and slurring all my words. Like, why can she hold 10 drinks and I can only do 1? Well, that's pretty simple, right? People who tend to drink over and over and over again tend to kind of build a habit a little bit, and they can sustain their tolerable tolerance, sorry, their tolerance gets higher, right? So it's kind of like hot Cheetos. A lot of people cannot eat hot Cheetos because they're too spicy. So a person may just eat one hot Cheeto and then just be like, "Ooh, that's spicy. I can't eat that anymore." And then maybe next time they'll start eating half the bag and they'll be fine. And then eventually they'll get to a point where they can eat the whole bag and maybe eat it without drinking water, right? So their tolerance builds up. Same thing with liquor and drugs. If you keep taking that and take it, your tolerance is going to build, and you're going to need more in order to feel any effects of it. So that's why people can hold their liquor better than others. So let's look at these two brains. So as you can see, this is a 15-year-old male that's a non-drinker, and you can see all the lights, the brain activity going on. Very pretty, pink, red, orange. This is a 15-year-old male heavy drinker. So look at the difference between how lit up the left side of the brain is versus the right. And this is them just doing a memory task, and the heavy drinker is sober while doing this, and he's sober, and look at all the brain activity. There's not a lot going on. So it can really, really affect your brain if you start drinking as a teen. And like I said, your brain's not finished developing. Your prefrontal cortex is not finished developing yet. So this is kind of some of the effects that can happen. Your brain activity will not be as working as good as someone who is a non-drinker. So something to keep in mind. So how can you say no? So let's say you're at a party and you don't want to drink, you just want to hang out. These are a lot of ways that you can say no. Fake it till you make it. So maybe someone hands you a cup with liquor in it, right? Instead of drinking it, maybe you can just hold it. Just hold it the rest of the night and not drink it. Just hold it. You know, you'll have a cup. Nobody will mess with you because you have a cup and they think you're drinking it. So nobody's going to come and say, "Hey, you're not drinking that cup." As long as you have something in your hand, they probably won't say anything, right? So just fake it till you make it. The other thing is pour it out. Maybe just have the cup with you and then just go to the sink, pour it out, but just keep holding the cup, right? You're holding a cup with nothing in it. Nobody's going to know. You can always just say, "No, thanks, I'm good." So somebody offers you like, "Hey, so-and-so, you want a drink?" Like, "Nah, thanks, I'm good. I'll get one later. No, thank you." The other option is just find a new friend group, right? Just don't hang out with those people anymore. The most important thing is never ride with someone who's been drinking. Call a friend, a parent, etc. This is very important. Number one, if you're riding with a person who is intoxicated and y'all get stopped, that will be a big problem. The person who is driving will get a DUI, which is not good, and they most likely will be taken to jail. So that's not good. But the other thing is you're putting yourself in danger. The person who's intoxicated driving is putting themselves in danger. Everybody in the car is in danger, right? Because when you have alcohol inside of you, you really don't have control over your body. Your body starts reacting to the alcohol and you don't really have a control or say in it. So it is very important to never ride with someone who is intoxicated. And it's also important not to let someone drive who is intoxicated. So if y'all are at a party or at someone's house, this person's very intoxicated and wants to go home, the best thing to do is not let them drive. Take their keys away, because you don't want them to put their life in danger, but also other people on the road. So if they're intoxicated and then they're driving down the road and they hit someone who was coming the opposite direction of them, like that could really cause a lot of damage to them in their lives, right? So they can put everybody in danger. So that's not very smart to let someone who's been intoxicated drive. So you can volunteer to be the DD. If you're of age to drive, you can volunteer yourself to be the DD. But the best option is maybe call somebody, call a parent, call a friend. I can most likely tell you that your parents will not be mad at you if you were at a party or something and you say, "Hey, Mom, some drinking went down. I don't feel comfortable driving or getting in a car with somebody who is intoxicated. Could you come get me?" I think your parents would probably respect you because you took that maturity step to say, "Hey, I know I did something wrong, but I really, care for these people, care for myself, care for you. Could you just come get me?" Right? So that's important. Know who you can call. And if you're H, make sure you are the DD. And if you are the DD, make sure you're not really drinking anything. Make sure you stay the DD. And for those of you who may not know, DD is designated driver, right? So if you're the designated driver, you're sober, you're not drinking, you're driving everyone home, making sure everyone's good. All right, let's move on to smoking and tobacco. So cigarette usage is common, sorry, in rural areas like in Dawson County where we live. It can be hard to break out of that cycle, right? So in rural areas, smoking and tobacco is kind of high, right? Cigarettes, chewing tobacco, vaping, they're very dangerous. Is smoking more or less socially acceptable? So I guess think about the years that have gone by, right? Maybe in the 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, smoking was seen as kind of a thing, right? Like everybody did it, so why not? And it was a way for people to relax, right? So smoking was very acceptable. Smoking was almost everywhere, right? So think about fast forward to 2020 now. You don't really see a lot of these areas. You don't really see a lot of these areas having smoking areas, right? Or if they have designated smoking areas, it's like all the way in the back of a restaurant, or they ask you to go outside and stand a certain amount of feet away from the store or the restaurant, right? Hotels, even a lot of hotels have designated rooms only for smoking, but majority of them are non-smoking rooms, right? So I think smoking is still socially acceptable, but it's not seen, it's not a popular thing that happens, right? A lot of people are trying to just kind of like, people who smoke, it's like, okay, go to the back room, or you only get a certain designated area that you can smoke. So a lot of people are starting to like get away from having socially acceptable places for smokers, right? All right, so what do you think is more dangerous? Secondhand smoking or firsthand smoking? And then we'll kind of talk a little bit more about that. What is more dangerous, secondhand smoking or firsthand smoking? So just think about that. All right, so if you said, oops, I guess I can tell you the answer. LOL, I'll tell you now. So the most dangerous is secondhand smoking, right? That is someone who, I'm gonna use myself as an example again. Let's say I'm smoking, right? And I have a friend next to me. If I'm smoking and blowing out that air and my friend is inhaling that air, it's more dangerous to her than it is if she would actually be smoking, which is kind of hard to believe, right? But it's true. It's more harmful that I am inhaling and then exhaling CO2. And then she's inhaling all the smoke that I just exhaled. So it's more dangerous to her. So just to clarify, firsthand smoking, for example, myself, if I'm the one smoking, I'm firsthand smoking. She's secondhand smoking because she's inhaling everything that I'm blowing out, which is, like I said, more dangerous. So tobacco, remember we talked about stimulant versus depressant. Tobacco is a stimulant. And the reason is because tobacco kind of is used as, is used as to relax people, right? And a lot of people use it to relax. So it like chills you out, it just doesn't give you a lot of energy. It just kind of like mellows you. So the consequences of tobacco there's a lot of them, right? You can get mouth cancer, tongue cancer, heart disease. You can get, your lungs. You can get lung cancer. You're damaging a lot of your insides. Essentially, you're burning your insides a little, and very slowly, you're burning your insides. So it's no joke. It's slow, painful way to go. The diseases related to smoking are major causes of death in the U.S., and the survival rate of tobacco-related disease is poor. So some short-term effects you might see is bad breath, yellow teeth, shaky hands, increased feeling of anxiety and nervousness, feeling fatigued. I want to focus on the increased feeling of anxiety and nervousness. A lot of people will start smoking because of their anxiety, but smoking gives you more anxiety. So it's kind of like that thing where it's like, I'm trying to get rid of my anxiety, so I'm going to smoke, but the smoking is giving me more anxiety, so therefore I have to keep smoking. So it becomes, a cycle that you can't break out of. All right, let's learn some biofeedback. So nicotine is in cigarettes. We all know this, right? So there's nicotine in cigarettes. It makes your heart beat faster and needs more oxygen. You're doing double the work when you're smoking. It forces oxygen out, makes you have your heart to work faster to get the oxygen it needs. So your heart's just pumping really hard, doing all the work. Pulse changes throughout the day based on what you're doing. Smokers' hearts beat faster. Having your heart beat faster more often can put more strain on it. So because your heart is working twice as hard, you're just putting more and more strain on it. You can't really run. You can't really do any physical activity. Some may, but a lot cannot, because their lungs and their heart are just working way too hard. Your hand steadiness, again, smoking, stimulant, depressant, we already said it was a stimulant, right? So like I said, smoking doesn't calm you down. It just makes you nervous, right? So you're trying to heal yourself by having anxiety. You have anxiety and you're trying to smoke to get rid of it. But this is the exact thing that causes that. So again, it's like a cycle, an unbroken cycle. So E-Cigs, so surprise, they're not good for you either, right? They contain nicotine, but the thing is, vapes, nobody knows what's really inside the vapes, right? To this day, they've been, in the market for a while now, but still nobody knows what's inside of them. Some vapes, when they first came out, antifreeze was found in them, which, if you don't know what antifreeze is, it's this fluid coolant that you put in your car in order for your car to, be able to blow out cold air and stuff. And it keeps kind of like your cool and hot air running and stuff, right? So that's kind of what people were inhaling at one point, which is very dangerous. And like I said, they really don't know what's in them, but they do a very good job at targeting teens with, like cotton candy flavors or chocolate flavors or coffee flavors, so they have all these different flavors trying to target you as a teen, and they do a really good job at it. And the other thing is they do a really good job at trying to hide them. So they'll make them like as flash drives, or they'll make them as a pen, or they'll make them, as something, a desk accessory that you would think is just a pen that you can write with, but it's really a vape. So they've done a very good job and progressed at trying to target teens and trying to make it hidden in plain sight, which is really scary. So marijuana, let's talk about marijuana. Marijuana is a natural plant. Yes, marijuana is a natural plant, but it contains a drug called THC, which THC is what causes people to get high. People can ingest marijuana or smoke marijuana. And they're both equally not good for you. And one can give you more of an effect than the other. But ingesting it is very dangerous, because you'll see in dispensaries, they'll have like brownies, or they'll have it in Rice Krispie treats or something that looks similar to it. So they'll just put it in like food that you would usually eat. The only problem is people don't know how much marijuana and THC they're putting into these edibles, is what they're called. So people don't even know how much they're inhaling or they're eating, right? Which could be very dangerous. Somebody could have very bad effects from it. So a lot of people will smoke it or eat it, both which are not good for you. So you might be asking, it's legal in lots of places now, so what's the big deal? Well, it is a big deal, kind of. Because here in Georgia, it's still illegal. And even if it became legalized here in Georgia, there would be an age restriction. So not anybody could just go and get marijuana. Definitely not teens. I would say they would have to put a law on it, or they would put a law on it that you must be 18 or 21 or 25. So they'll definitely put an age restriction on it. You can't just freely go and get it, right? And it'll probably be like alcohol. If you're caught with it under a certain age, you will get in trouble for it. So it's not going to be free and easy for anybody. So medical marijuana actually does not contain THC. So medical marijuana does not have, they take out that THC drug that gets a person high. They take it out. So you're not getting high or anything from it. You're just taking the marijuana, but there's no effect to it. No high, no nothing. And the other thing too is marijuana's been around for a while, yes. But it's different than when it was 30 years ago. So 30 years ago probably wasn't as strong as it might be now, because now people will end up mixing it with other drugs, right? and making it like 10 times stronger. So marijuana is different. It's changed and it's progressed from the years. So why do some teens smoke marijuana? So just think about it. Why do some teens smoke marijuana? And I can think of a few reasons as well, but just take a second and just think about all the reasons as to why teens smoke marijuana. So I'm just going to throw it out there. A lot of teens smoke marijuana because maybe they're anxious, right? Some might be self-medicating. Some might not be able to sleep, and so they feel like smoking marijuana will help them sleep at night, right? Some do it for peer pressure. Their friends are doing it, so why not try it, right? There's a lot of reasons why teens smoke marijuana or want to smoke marijuana, right? But there's a lot of effects to marijuana, right? It increases your heart rate. Your eyes will get red. Your mouth will get dry. You'll feel like you need to drink a lot of water, and you feel like you'll never get, hydrated because it's just dryness of the mouth. Mild decrease in body temperature. Your long-term effects is that THC, the little THC that's in the marijuana, will stay in the body for a long time, and it will likely show up on a drug test. So let's say, for example, myself, I'm going to use myself for example. Let's say I smoked marijuana a month ago, and now I have to do a drug test. It will probably still show up on my drug test. That THC will probably show up on my drug test even after a month later. So be aware of that. THC does stay in your body for a long time. So that's something you can't just get rid of like that. It affects your heart and your lungs, and no one can use it in the state of Georgia. Like I said before, it's still legal here. No one can use it, right? So let's move on to prescription pills. Prescription pills has become more prevalent among teens who use, right? These can include drugs that treat depression, pain, psychoses, ADHD, or other drugs, right? So prescription pills, how you can abuse them is, let's say I have a major toothache, right? I have a major toothache. It won't go away. And I remember, hey, my mom has some Oxy, right? That they prescribed to her when she had surgery. I'm sure that'll help, right? So me innocently get the Oxy and I'll take it because of my toothache. It heals my toothache, but it also makes me feel really good, right? And then, I don't have pain anymore, but I loved how that made me feel. So you know what? Let me go pop another Oxy just to feel that feeling again, right? That's how it starts. It may start innocently like that. Some people may start with, they probably had a broken bone and they prescribe Oxy to them for the pain. And, their arm hurts, they'll take the Oxy and keep taking it until they become addicted to it, right? And they like how it makes them feel and stuff. So that's kind of how prescription pills work, right? Taking somebody else's prescription pills that don't belong to you, or abusing your own and taking more than what you're supposed to. So the last and most important thing I want to talk to you about is Georgia's 911 medical amnesty law. So this is important. So this protects individuals from arrest, prosecution, or conviction of a certain drug offenses if the evidence for any action results from medical assistance for someone thought to be suffering from an overdose. So if somebody is suffering from an overdose, let's say we're at a party, right? And there's drugs and there's alcohol, and our friend Sally is on the floor and she looks like she's passed out, and maybe there's some foam coming out of her mouth, right? Let's say we're all intoxicated, we've all had some drugs, and nobody wants to call the cops because they're scared that everybody's getting in trouble and go to jail. The Georgia amnesty law protects you from that. So if we're all intoxicated and somebody still picks up the phone and calls the ambulance and say, hey, I think somebody's overdosing, we've all had some drugs and alcohol in us, but somebody's overdosing, we need help. The cops, yes, will come out, the ambulance, yes, will come out, but you saved a life. So because you saved a life and because you did the right thing, the medical amnesty law, the 911 medical amnesty law will protect you. Yes, you shouldn't have been drinking. Yes, you shouldn't have doing those drugs. But at the same time, you did the right thing by calling the cops and saving someone's life from overdosing. So that's kind of what the Georgia 911 medical amnesty law is if you're in a situation where somebody is overdosing and you call the ambulance or call the police to get them help, this will protect you from it. So that's important to know. And not a lot of people know about it. A lot of people are scared when they're stuck in this situation, which a lot of overdoses have happened because of this situation. A lot of people don't know about this. So it's important to educate yourself, educate those around you. If you're ever in the situation, remember that there's a Georgia 911 medical amnesty law for people who might be overdosing and you want to help. You will not get in trouble for it. So yeah, this is very important. I like to talk about this a lot because I know there's a lot of overdoses that may have been able to be prevented. I'm not saying all overdoses could have been prevented by this, but maybe some of them could have. And it's good to know about what laws we have out there that may protect us and may protect other people as well. So that's all I got for today. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being part of this. I hope you learned a lot about, drugs and alcohol, or kind of have an idea of what they are now. But thank you for coming. Thank you for being here.